the king's edict. The king's edict, as taken from Esther chapter 4. And this is, of course, a moment of reflections into the word of the Lord. And so this happens after Haman, the enemy of the Jews, had hatched a plot to annihilate them. However, this reaches the ears of Esther, and Mordecai tells her to go before the king. But Esther is a little adamant to do that because she knows that there is a law that one cannot just approach the king's place unless one has been asked to do so. And even if they go and not without prior notice, then they would have to go there, and if their life is spared, the king shall extend that iron scepter, to them, and that would probably signify that their life will not be taken away from them. So what happens here? We're going to read on, and in chapter 4 it says, when Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city wailing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. In every province to which the edict and order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When eunuchs, Esther's eunuchs, and female servants came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and explain it to her. And he told him to instruct her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent, at this time relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. And this was not an easy time for the people of the Jewish nation, because there was a plot to do away with them. And once it had been hatched, of course, the dispatches were sent all across the province to announce to them of the intention to carry this out, because the king had already issued an edict concerning this. Now, the king's edict, of course, is so binding, and it is so, it can't be reversed. In other words, it kind of reminds you of those guys who saw Daniel praying, and they went and reported to the king of that time, and they persuaded him to write in his words a law that would forbid anyone from doing that, and if they with severe consequences and all that. But now back to this place, this plot. We see that the king had also issued his decree, and that it was final. The king's edict. And what we can take away from this whole thing is that we serve the King of Kings, and his edict is final. The edict of the king is the word of the Lord. The edict of the king says that we have been saved. We have been bought at a price. And that does it. In this moment of great distress, Esther could not approach the king's palace or the king's courtyard. But today we see that even though there is distress around us, we can approach the king's courtyard tonight, because that gold scepter has been extended in the form of the grace that we find in the time of need. We can come and we can truly go before him, even without prior notice, because the curtains of the temple have been torn in two. Therefore, we heed the king's edict. Who is this king? The Bible says in Psalm 24, he is the King of glory. His edict cannot be revoked. His edict concerning your affairs, concerning my affairs, it is binding. And I'm glad for the edict of the Lord over my life, because I know that it holds water. I know that it holds, just like Rev. Esther Basike was talking about earlier. She said in Isaiah 55, the word that God sends, it sprouts no matter the situation. And so today we can take heart that the king's edict is favorable. And he has already extended the gold scepter to us, just like the king of that time extended the gold scepter to Esther and beckoned her to come and even asked her what it was that she desired to have, that it would be given to her. Today God is doing the same, because truly speaking, no one shows up without an appointment to the king's office. You just don't show up. There has to be plenty of planning, plenty of scheduling, rescheduling, and things like that. However, we thank the Lord that his edict overrides the edict of a human king. And whatever he has written in the edict overrides even the edict of those who know, those who are skilled in their craft. Here I'm talking about, for example, a doctor's report might say you are this way and that way. But the king's edict says in Isaiah 53 that by his wounds we are healed. We've been set free. The Bible talks about the prisoners being released in Isaiah 61, the brokenhearted being bound. The Bible talks about us wearing a garment of praise, an oil of gladness, and a crown of beauty. That is the king's word for you and for me. So today, may we accept that word, because it is a binding word.